On a light air day, we returned to the marina near the factory to correct some construction errors typical of a new boat. Notice the gray pipe in my hand. This extension allows me to shift the gear on the engine without bending over. When docking, I often shift out of gear into neutral for a moment to take off some speed. Without my homemade extension, I have to bend over and lose situational awareness at the worst time when near other boats. Let's dive into our docking and carnival. If you are not a boater, you might not realize docking creates more fear in sailors than strong winds. During this first season, I practiced docking and improved with every maneuver. First, we struggled to get the port captain to pick up the VHF radio. Later, we realized it was lunchtime. You might notice the tiller when I put the boat into reverse. As the boat begins reversing, the captain temporarily does not have control. Also notice that I am using my legs to stabilize the rudder. In reverse, the rudder can load up and produce significant forces on the tiller. As we set up to enter the slip, you can see a gentle breeze blowing across the boat. This means a gentle breeze will be blowing out of the slip. I've chosen a long run up to our slip. This has a few advantages. More time to get the boat properly moving in reverse and having nice water flow over the rudders. Secondly, I get to practice how the boat is responding to today's wind and current. As a rookie, it takes a bit of time to get into the docking groove. I will take the boat out of gear to slow the boat and see how close the rudder is to stalling. Ideally, you enter every slip at the slowest speed possible with the rudder not stalling. Since we chose this slip rather than a port captain assignment, I had some apprehension on whether Cyclops would fit. We are 4 meters wide, which is a bit wider than boats built 10 years ago. We looked for a slip with a skinny neighbor. Gail began her docking gymnastics. She has found a safe place outside the pushpit. The metal safety railing at the stern is called a pushpit, but in French they are called the balcon, like balcony. If Gail jumps to the dock, I chide her as we want no injuries. I should be able to get the boat where she can just descend safely onto the catway.
1 foot. A fender and a half. You're in?
At the back of the slip, there's a kind boat neighbor who came to help, but Gail was in full control, so he let us tie up alone. I later went to thank him. This angle lets you better see how I change from reverse gear to neutral. Also, I continue to steer the boat as we enter the slip. With a tiller, things may seem reversed if you're used to a wheel. Not until the docking is fully done do I apply forward gear. Forward is very efficient and can stop the boat in half a meter. Hey Gail, tell us about how it was pumping up the dinghy.
It's very difficult. I can't believe I did it all by my own.
And how many chambers were there?
4.
What are the 4 chambers of this fine dinghy?
The bow, the port, the stern, and the floor.
So unlike a sort of real cruising boat dinghy, the floor is inflatable rather than being made of aluminum or aluminium. 3D Tender, a UK company, is the maker of the dinghy. The motor is electric, which means no gasoline on board. Great for safety. The maiden voyage of the Cyclops tender, currently without a name. She is 2.9 meters and is small enough to fit in the aft lazarette. The bag is too big to fit flat, but the 2.3 meter model of the dinghy might be too small for any substantial waves. This summer, she was not tested much since we used marinas frequently. Next year, I will give a proper review. We are now at max speed. In calm conditions, I figure max speed is about 5 knots, but we'll do a proper table in the future. Okay, well, should we do a 3-point turn?
Okay.
Okay, so 3-point turn. I gotta go this way. Big throttle. Oh, you don't need to do 3 points. You just go 1 point, we'll do just fine. We're gonna go out and update the software on the Triton 2. And B&G makes this incredibly annoying. For all of its other hardware, you do the software update Basically via the chart plotter. Triton 2, you actually have to access the back of the unit. Okay, so the first step is I need to remove this plastic ring, which is just how strong is the keratin in your nails. Now the little plastic ring is off, it's time to unscrew it. Now it's time to break the caulking out, which is the most delicate operation. I then had to clean up the caulking to create a waterproof seal. Moment of truth. We have the thumb drive in the back. Let's see what happens. The software update failed. Later, I discovered that B&G cannot handle a thumb drive of greater than 8 gigabytes. This is not listed in instructions, but I found it on a forum. I reinstalled the unit as rain was in the forecast. A week later, after buying a relic 4 gigabyte thumb drive, the software was updated, and the job was done. Finally, we are back on the water. I have raised a bunch of mainsails and tacked a ton of jibs in my day, but each boat has its own quirks. I need to go slowly to learn the process for Cyclops. For example, lower the keel before raising the sails, or move the check stays forward before sailing off the wind, or double check the traveler is locked in on both sides. Here I am practicing an easy maneuver, a solo tack. The autopilot steers the boat through the wind while I ease the soon-to-be lazy sheet, and then trim the new active sheet. This tack was sloppy, since I have the autopilot set at too low a turn rate for the current wind conditions. Notice how the jib keeps luffing longer than it should. A faster turn rate and the jib would fill properly. A quick final trim of the jib and an adjustment to the autopilot, and the boat starts to get on her feet. Despite having the entire B&G catalog of electronics, you'll notice when I sit down to steer, the first thing I do is look at the sails and the masthead fly, all mechanical items. Many people are surprised that a 39-foot boat has twin tillers, not a wheel. When the factory updated their model from the old 38 to the new 39, they asked me if I would prefer a wheel to a tiller. I strongly supported the tiller because when steering you feel more connected to the boat. Steering a tiller boat is fun, like steering a laser, yet more stable. You can easily feel the weather helm build up. Another advantage of the tiller is that one sits farther forward. This way the traveler and the main sheet are well aft of the pilot. Finally, at the dock the tiller can be lifted up for a small dance floor or a yoga studio in the stern. I ordered triple-speed Carver winches for headsail trim rather than the factory standard 2-speed winches. Carver is a French company and has a unique product. The third gear offers huge mechanical advantage. I was attracted to the winch because on a windy day I can stay in a safe position while trimming the headsail. The winch has a load sensor to allow it to change gears. In light airs you can see the winch moves a bit as the load temporarily drops. With this boat I'm experimenting with some new technology. We visited Quiberon because the docking seemed very straightforward. There was a long visitor's dock. When we entered the marina and headed towards the visitor's dock, we were told by the port captain that the area had too little water. A bit of confusion broke out, and we finally realized that we needed to raft up and wait 2 hours to enter the inner harbor. Simple had officially gone out the window. We reversed towards the inner harbor's gate, but at the last minute we were told to spin 180 degrees. The motorboat behind was none too pleased with our last-minute move. Later, they would prevent us from rafting up to them in another harbor. Here is what the harbor sill looks like when the tide is out. Please notice a few details in this image. First, the red stakes. They will look much different when the tide comes in. Second, the concrete will be covered during our crossing. The third item to observe is the sill. It is to the right of the red markers and is holding back the water in the marina. The sill will have dropped when we enter. Hopefully. Gail is strategically sitting on the opposite side of the boat from me to help with clearance through the tidal gate. She quickly checks the forward-looking sonar to confirm the gate has descended. We are the first boat to enter on this tide. You can see the red markers and the clear water reveals the walls of the tidal gate. We made it to the inner harbor with no fuss. The location was ideal and was well worth the extra effort. Brits and French will be surprised but tidal gates are rare in the US. A Solex is a moped with a lower power engine. However, in France, it has a cult following that likes to dress up in costume and go on group rides. We loved having our parade surprise us in front of the boat. The inner harbor was worth it. Our experience with French coastal towns in the Morbihan department has been excellent. The walking paths offer great views, pass through cute towns, and are free from cars. Language confusion is a fun part of foreign travel. One of the big grocery chains in France is Casino, with a capital C. I asked where to buy the chips to gamble, and they asked if I wanted potato chips or tortilla chips. Later, on a hike, I saw this Casino, with a K. I suggested to Gail we pick up some lunch fixings, but this time it actually was a gambling hall.